we're going through a knife crime epidemic, a phone epidemic, a shoplifting epidemic, a robbery epidemic. A rape is reported every hour and only 6% get charged. The children of this city are having to work really hard to pay for those asylum seekers, subsidise their lives and refugees, while they themselves can no longer afford to live in the city that they live in.
And what we see in reform-run councils is chaos just over the border in Kent. They split and split again. They've lied to the public. They made promises that they couldn't keep. They are there to serve the ego of one man, actually, rather than serving the residents who we are proud and honoured to represent and campaign for.
Sounds a bit of a pointed reference to Nigel Farage at the end there. What is going on in South East London? Here in Bexley, one of London's boroughs, the council is up for election in just a matter of weeks, and it's heating up to be a bit of a fight between the Conservatives, who've held this area for a very long time, and Reform, who are looking to seize not one, not two, but every single council seat. We're going to spend the day with the Conservatives and with Reform and put those questions to them. What exactly is going on in this part of London? So you've got all-out council elections coming up in basically just a few weeks. Reform are really confident that they're going to take basically everywhere here. Do you think Reform are a threat in Bexley?
Well, I think here in Bexley, we have a very proud and strong track record delivering for our residents. And we know residents are frustrated with national politics, and some people may exercise a protest vote as a result of that. But here in Bexley, we do things differently. We have a proven track record investing in local services, improving our streets, improving our roads, improving our schools. We get campaigns to get health facilities into our borough. So we've got a very good track record on the key local issues, whereas other parties are not rooted in the community in the way we are. They are there to serve the ego of one man, actually, rather than serving the residents who we are proud and honoured to represent and campaign for.
Sounds a bit of a pointed reference to Nigel Farage at the end there. Bexley has got a lot of open spaces, and there is a housing crisis in London with a lot of housing unaffordable for younger generations. What is the council's approach to building homes, and would the council ever consider building on London's green belt?
Well, we're quite clear in Bexley. We take a brownfield first approach. We've got an up-to-date local plan which allocates sites for somewhere in the region of 6,000 new homes on biggish industrial sites and brownfield sites. So we're very much focused on protecting our green spaces and the green belt. Unfortunately, the Labour government and the Labour Mayor of London are committed to building on the green belt and committed to destroying these places. And unfortunately, here in Bexley, for people thinking about voting Reform in London back building on the green belt. They're standing shoulder to shoulder with Sadiq Khan in wanting to see our green spaces and green belt destroyed and concreted over.
London and the UK is facing a housing crisis, and a lot of young people can't get on the property ladder. How does Bexley go about building more homes whilst also protecting the green belt?
So our approach is very much a brownfield first approach. So we have significant growth, particularly in the north of the borough, in the kind of Erith and Thamesmead area. Bexley has met its housing targets for a number of years, but we do face significant challenges. So we have the Mayor and the government tripling Bexley's housing target whilst cutting Labour areas' housing targets. How convenient for them. So we have massive challenges there, but we want to make sure that our green spaces are protected. So residents, when we go out and we speak, are very, very concerned about the government's plans around green belt release and the so-called grey belt rules, and also some of the comments coming out of Reform's mayoral candidate, Laila Cunningham, which has described our green spaces, these wonderful green spaces, as industrial wasteland. Now, that's not something that we recognise in outer London, and we believe that some of these comments are coming from people that do not understand the way of life in the suburbs.
This is Bexley Village, in what used to be an area the Tories saw as a very safe ward. It's filled with restaurants, pubs, and the house prices here are on the steeper end of the scale. Reform will need to make significant gains in this part of the borough and hoover up a lot of Conservative votes if they've got any chance of taking control of the council. Reform are just setting up on Bexley Heath High Street, right in the middle of the London borough of Bexley. And they've got quite a large team out. Some of the people I was speaking to just a few moments ago, former Tory voters and former Labour voters. But can those two groups come together and unseat a large number of Tory councillors in just a few weeks' time? Do you think Reform can take control of Bexley Council?
I think we're very hopeful to take control of Bexley Council. Yeah, we speak to residents on the door, and people are ready for change.
Now, what is it really, do you think? This area is incredibly Conservative. It's been Tory for ages. Do you think, what is it about Reform that can break that stranglehold the Tories have on seats here?
So I think the people at Bexley, politics is not a religion. So they voted Conservatives, as you say, many, many decades. And then they've realised that actually the Conservatives have not delivered on the promises they've made. You know, people are telling me that, you know, pickpocketing is rampant, phone theft is rampant. And they just feel that the Tories have let them down in so many different ways, nationally and locally. And they're ready for a change. You know, they're like, one woman said, you know, it is madness to want change, but always vote for the same party. So people who want change are going to vote for us.
Now, I spoke to Conservatives earlier today, and they made some interesting claims about Reform Party policies, including one claim which said that in order to address the housing crisis, Reform would build on the Green Belt. I'd like to put that claim to you. Will you build on the Green Belt?
No, we will always protect the Green Belt. But we do recognise that there's a housing crisis. Aaron, we have 30 and 40-year-olds in London who will never own a home, and a state that can't provide for them. And for me, what kind of city raises their children? And when it comes time for them to own a home, we tell them, you know what, it's too expensive for you. You've got to move out. And that's what's happening. And the real disgrace is that London is perhaps the second or the first in housing asylum seekers and refugees. And the children of this city are having to work really hard to pay for those asylum seekers, subsidise their lives and refugees, while they themselves can no longer afford to live in the city that they live in. And that for us is a disgrace. And that's something we really want to focus on, because home ownership shouldn't just be a slogan. It should be a reality for so many people in London.
So you've got lots of target councils, Bexley, Bromley, Havering. Here in Bexley, on May the 7th, why should people who perhaps haven't made their mind up sort of get up in the morning and go out and vote Reform?
Because we are a party that promises a London that works for Londoners. You know, people do feel that London's been run by ideology. You know, you've got LTNs that are basically fleecing residents for millions of pounds. Nobody wants them, but they're imposed on people by councils. You've got 15 boroughs in London that have declared themselves sanctuary boroughs for refugees. And, you know, Reform's policy is to make London a sanctuary for Londoners and veterans. This is what our veterans take rough. But also, you know, we're going to get on top of law and order. You know, we're going through a knife crime epidemic, a phone epidemic, a shoplifting epidemic, a robbery epidemic. A rape is reported every hour and only 6% get charged. And this has happened on the Conservative and on the Labour's watch. We want a London that works for Londoners.
Tell me a bit more about Reform in Bexley. If you've got lots of members, what's the feeling like ahead of the local elections?
Well, the feeling here in Bexley is fantastic, honestly. The response we're getting on the door is phenomenal. You know, people across Bexley are really, you know, that message of family, community, country, it really resonates with people down here. And so Reform in Bexley is a force to be reckoned with. And, you know, ahead of these local elections, I think we are going to give a shock to this Tory council. I think we're going to give a shock to this Labour mayor.
I put the question of mounting council debt to the Conservatives this morning, and their council leader, David Leaf, said that it goes back to how services are funded. They borrow money to fund essential services. What do you say to that?
This is what we heard a lot going into the last set of local elections. You can't just come in and make these cuts. You can't find this savings. But Reform councils have saved their residents hundreds of millions of pounds. They've found these wasteful spending. We've found these savings. So absolutely, I have complete confidence in our ability, once we've got Reform people on the council looking through the data, have a real audit of the council finances, I have full confidence in our ability to find those savings for our residents.
What was it that made you've never been a member of a party, decide, I'm going to join Reform?
Well, you're right. I was never in a political party, and I decided this one was the right one for me because I really liked what the leadership had to say, especially Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Zia Youssef, and they were resonating with me. So that made me join the party over 2.5 years ago. And from then, I've loved every moment of it, being an activist. And, you know, we are really going to try and win this local election coming up here at the moment and make Bexley a better place.
It really does seem to be all to play for here in Bexley. The Conservatives and Reform are keen to post this as a two-horse race between the two of them, but there is of course the Labour Party, who hold a lot of seats further up to the north of the borough. But I suppose when it comes to May the 7th, we'll just have to wait and see who's left on top.